Hi, my name is Sako Philpott and I'm a student with AIPC and I'm reflecting on my counselling session with Simon Lueng, who was referred to the service for anxiety by his general practitioner. So I think the strengths and weaknesses of the counselling session, the main strength was explaining the confidentiality, the contracting process, and going through the limitations to confidentiality, and then getting his consent at the end of that. I think that was good, and it helped clarify expectations right at the beginning. Was also able to outline the structure of the session and how long the session would take. I feel that I was better this time at maintaining a supportive, non-judgmental approach throughout the session, and I feel that I was better at allowing him to share his concerns and talk about his issues without me jumping in or without me telling him what to do or being too prescriptive. And I think that by being able to do that and summarising, my summarising wasn't as good as it could be, but I did summarise somewhat. That allowed him to identify his decision and what he was actually going to try and do. One challenge I found was that I was a little bit clumsy in different parts, although this session was definitely smoother. And some bits and pieces my questions weren't as smooth or as clear as they could be. And my cat Salem thinks that he should be a part of this reflection as well. So he's going down rather than making me have to film this again. I also felt partially that it developed a little bit of a rapport, but not as good a rapport as I could have. And I think I possibly moved a little bit too quickly onto the problem solving and the decision making process. I would have liked to spend a bit more time getting to know Simon, understanding his background and building a stronger relationship with him before focusing on the decision itself. So I didn't get a lot of that in the initial. I didn't let him talk enough, I don't think. Another area for improvement would be to just explore Simon's anxiety a little bit better. And I think, though, overall, we explored most of his options, like the pros, the cons, and all the possible options of asking her out, not asking her out, waiting a while. We went through all the possible scenarios, so I think that was quite good. But we could have, spent a bit more time talking about barriers and supports. We touched on visualization and something that he could do to sort of progress his motivation and action towards action, but we didn't really spend a lot of time on that overall. But I was pleased that I was able to explain to Simon that counselling is not about being fixed, that there's nothing wrong with him, that counselling is a space to be able to work through your issues in a safe space. So I hope that message was well received and that I did that in an appropriate way. Overall, I think we were able to achieve the purpose of the session. Simon was able to identify what he wanted to do, even though initially we talked about being fixed and some of his anxiety. He was able to come to that, I want to ask this girl out and this is what I want to do. But yeah, there's a fair few areas I'd like to improve around rapport building and being less clumsy with my questioning, and just strengthening that overall scaling pros and cons flow of things, and probably allowing a little bit more time for reflection and space to sit in rather than jumping to the next thing. But overall, I feel like this session went well, and we were able to close it off and summarise and also talk about the next steps and have a discussion about what he'd like to deal with in the next sessions. which I felt was good. And overall, it was a very reasonable session. And yeah, I can see that basically moving forward, I'd like to work on just making that decision-making, scaling question a bit smoother and a bit more fluid.